Hi, I'm Dan O'Day. On a previous video, I shared 5 radio programming fallacies. Here are 5 more. Number 1, don't say goodbye at the end of your air shift. The goal is a valid one, not to signal to the listeners that it's time to leave. But if you've succeeded in establishing a one-to-one bond with the listener, and suddenly you disappear, then you break that bond. A good radio show is a conversation with the listener. The conversation might be serious or humorous or playful or challenging or even contentious, but it should be a conversation. Imagine that you're sitting on a park bench engaged in an interesting conversation with someone. You turn your head, you look back, and the person suddenly is gone. That would be a bit jarring, wouldn't it? Still, you can say goodbye without saying goodbye. You can hand off the show to the next host in a bit of crosstalk. You can promote an exciting or intriguing element in the next jock show, or you can do both. You can promote tomorrow's show, promote an element of the next jock show, and then just slip away. Remember, big celebrity will be live in the studio with us tomorrow. Meanwhile, Ed Jock is here, and he's just dying to give you a pair of tickets to the Summer Blowout concert. Fallacy number 2. Actualities are very important to a local radio newscast. I certainly believed that when I was a news director. Why? Because they give the illusion of news. And to a radio person, they feel like radio. But reliable research indicates that listeners, audience members, simply could care less. A typical local radio news actuality goes like this. The newscaster says, "We asked Sheriff Jones if any arrests have been made," and then Sheriff Jones says, "No arrests have been made thus far, but we're working on a number of promising leads." That was Sheriff Jones. Most of us were taught to add audio, but if listeners to a music or entertainment station sit through a newscast, it's to find out what's happening in their world. Yes, probably in the 1920s, it was exciting for listeners to hear politicians' actual voices, but a century later, the novelty pretty much has worn off. Here's a handy rule of thumb to follow. If the new voice increases the listener's understanding of the information being imparted or adds a deeper layer of emotional impact, then it makes sense to use it. Fallacy number 3. Because no one listens more than 30 minutes, every 30-minute segment should be fully self-contained. In other words, in any 30-minute period, the listener should hear a microcosm of your entire program. If you have characters, trivia questions, phone calls, and music, then within any 30-minute period, the listener should hear a character, a trivia question, a phoner, and some songs. That just helps to fulfill the 30-minute limit prophecy. You don't want the listener to feel a sense of completion after 30 minutes. You want the listener to sense that the longer she listens, the more fun she'll have. Fallacy number 4. Radio imaging equals clever liners. Okay, no one actually says that aloud, but most radio programmers and producers think imaging is comprised of 2 elements, cleverness and production tricks. One of my pet peeves is programmers or imaging directors who ask me, "Where can I find some clever liners?" Instead, they should be asking, what does our station truly represent? What is the core listener experience that differentiates us from our competitors? And how can we express that in a powerful manner? And fallacy number 5, you should put music under everything for forward momentum and to keep it interesting. Now, this usually is a fallacy held by programmers of music stations. If you need to put music under something in order to make it interesting, then by definition, that something is boring. How about making it actually interesting? Music should be added to voice only if it increases the emotional impact of the message. You don't create forward momentum by adding music. any more than you add action to a dull movie scene by making lots of quick cuts. You create forward momentum by structuring your program and your station so that each element organically leads to the next. I'm Dan O'Day.